What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC San Antonio. We got Cory Sandhagen going against Marlon Vera.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out.
And we are back with another full card breakdown and prediction video. This week breaking down UFC San Antonio with a 13-fight card, and a card with not a ton of name value, I'd say, but I think a lot of these fights are going to be fun. I think a lot of these fights are going to be very violent as well. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this card as a whole. Looking forward to keeping the ball rolling. Another winning week last week, making it 4 events straight with some profit. And then, yeah, hoping to make it 5 here. I mean, this is a card where I'm not going to have a ton of action, but I think there's a lot of violent spots sticking out, and I think it's going to be a good card from a fan perspective as well. So looking to end March strong, looking to end this 8-week stretch strong as well. And yeah, it's been a pretty good start to the year thus far, so hoping to keep it rolling with UFC San Antonio. Before we get started, a couple things. I do want to shout out Tommy Viken. Shout to Tommy, though. He, with a significant strike contest, the correct answer was 207 combined significant strikes, and he guessed 207 right on the dot. Shout to Tommy, was able to get him his winnings today. Tommy, phenomenal guess right on the dot. That is not easy to do. Other than that, going live Friday, 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time for the Final Thoughts show. There will be no best bet show this Saturday as well. And then, yeah, other than that, Twitter, DFS_numbers. Instagram is DFS by the Numbers. Go follow me over there if you have any comments, questions, or concerns. Also, leave a like on this video. I do appreciate all the likes, all the subscriptions. I'm trying to reach 20,000 subs, hopefully in the very near future. So if you do enjoy the content and you are not subscribed already, please be sure to hit the subscribe button. It does mean a lot. Sorry about the late release. Sorry if I sound a little bit different. I'm a little bit sick. But was able to get all the research done and push through it, so I'm getting the breakdown out just on a Wednesday, which I don't typically like to do, but it's better late than never is what I like to say. But let's get into it. We're going to start with the first fight of the night, and speaking of being sick, I had to go out there and tape study Tamires Vidal, which is not a fun thing to do, but hey, I got through it, and I will give my pick on this one, going against Hailey Cowan. So we'll start with the Hailey Cowan. She's 31 years old, 5'8", with a 69.5-inch reach, 7-2 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Tamires Vidal, 24 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach, 7-1 and 5-0 in her last 5 fights. So there's been some crazy line movement on this card in general, but especially this fight. So listen to this. Hailey Cowan opened up as a plus 135 dog, and then she went to like plus 210, and she was hanging around plus 200 for like a day and a half, which I know a lot of people that got on Hailey Cowan around plus 200, which phenomenal job. I was not one of those people just because this was the last fight I researched for obvious reasons. Yeah, so this line has moved a ton. So Cowan all the way from plus 200 for like a day and a half, right, to now she's minus 115. And then we got Tamires Vidal, who opened up minus 155. She was hanging around plus 250, plus 230, which is wild. And she's currently sitting at, minus 105. So obviously this is a fight that I will not be betting. It's a fight that I probably won't be watching. But yeah, I do agree with the line movement. I think it still should be lined a fairly close fight just because Tamires Vidal, she looked a lot better in her last matchup against Ramona Pascual. And I know Pascual's not UFC caliber. I think Pascual's even been cut, and rightfully so. But she went out there and she looked solid. She looked a lot better than she had in previous fights. But I think Cowan's going to be the better fighter here. I think she's going to use her strength, potentially get takedowns, clinch Vidal against the cage, win minutes against the cage, get this fight extended. I think Cowan's going to have the better cardio as well. I went back and watched that Vidal fight against Perez, and Perez just bullied her the entire time, just beat her up the entire time, and it was that DQ loss for Perez, where she landed like 5 different illegal shots in the course of the fight, and Vidal ended up getting that DQ win, but, Perez was just dominating that fight, which was a terrible look. And like I said, I think Vidal, she's young, 24 years old, I think she's going to be improving, but I think Cowan should get this done. But at the same time, I'm not high on Cowan as well. So this is the biggest pass of the night, a fight that I'm staying away from. But like I said, I do agree with that line movement, and I'm going to go with Cowan to win this fight by a dirty, greasy decision that is probably going to play out very close. But give me Hailey Cowan for the dub here to kick off the card. All right, next we get to some really good prelims. I think these next couple prelims are very good. I'm looking forward to them. Vinicius Salvador going against Victor Altamirano. We got Salvador, 26 years old, 5'7", with a 70.5-inch reach, 14-4 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Victor Altamirano, 32 years old, 5'8", with a 70.5-inch reach, 11-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So I remember taping Vinicius Salvador for Contender Series, and he was fighting Shannon Ross that week, right? We all know Shannon Ross. And Salvador came in there on short notice, and he was a big dog. I think he was the biggest dog that night against Shannon Ross. Like, Shannon Ross was like minus 250 to like minus 300. And Salvador was a big dog. And I was pretty confident in Shannon Ross that night, to be honest, because you go and watch Salvador outside of that Contender Series fight, and first of all, he's fighting nobody. I mean, the last win prior to Salvador coming in on the Contender Series was against an 0-0 guy who since then has not fought ever again. And he has a couple of those wins against like 0-0 guys, like terrible competition, right? And, you watch these fights, and he's fighting these low-level guys, and he's not looking good at all. He's looking very sloppy on the feet. He's getting taken down. He's losing minutes. He's getting finished. He's been submitted like twice in his career by low-level guys. I mean, it's a bad look. And then all of a sudden, he comes in here after like a 2-year layoff, which, he made so many improvements in those 2 years off, because the last time he did fight, he was 24. He's 26 now. He came in there against Shannon Ross, and I was like, who the heck is this guy? Who is this guy? Like, he looked nothing like he did outside of that Contender Series fight from the tape I watched. So Salvador's making a lot of improvements. I'm still not completely sold on him, but the guy's super dangerous. He has that fun style where he doesn't care if you hit him in the face. He's willing to eat one, to give one, and he hits very hard for a flyweight. This guy is an all-out finisher. I believe he has a 100% finish rate, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. 100% finish rate for Vinicius Salvador. He's only been to decision once, and it was a loss. So, yeah, very dangerous. All 93% of those coming by knockout. So, a lot of power in his hands. Victor Altamirano, I was looking to go in here and potentially pick and bet Altamirano, but to be honest, I wasn't that impressed with the guy. I mean, he's a black belt in BJJ. I think he needs to use that here. I think he needs to get this fight down to the mat. And if he can, I think he could potentially get a sub here, because I don't think Salvador is great at all on the mat. But yeah, on the feet, Altamirano, very hittable in his own right. We saw him get dropped early on against Daniel da Silva, who we talk about. Just very, very hittable. I'm not in love with the striking. I think, Salvador's going to be the more dangerous guy here. So I don't know. It's a tough fight because I'm not completely sold yet on Vinicius Salvador, but he just looked like he leveled up. And if he comes in here and fights like he did against Shannon Ross, I'd like him to win this fight. So I'll take Vinicius Salvador to win this fight. It's a very close fight. Could go either way. Again, I'm not high on either of these guys. I think this fight's going to be awesome. But yeah, not high on either guy. But I'm going to say Salvador does knock out Victor Altamirano early on. But yeah, if Altamirano can get that grappling going, he could be live for a sub. But yeah, I'm going to take Salvador KO1 here. And it should be a very fun fight because Salvador is a very, very fun and exciting fighter with a very fun style as well. So give me Salvador. I'll take him to win by first round knockout here. All right, moving on, we have probably my favorite fight on the prelims, and that's because it's a Manuel Torres fight. We got Manuel Torres going against Trey Ogden. We got Torres, 28 years old, 5'10", with a 73-inch reach, 13-2 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Trey Ogden, 33 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach, 16-5 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So Manuel Torres, I don't know how to explain this guy other than he fights like he's on crack. I mean, this guy, I don't know. He's like he fights like Terrence McKinney. Like, he goes out there and fights like a complete wild man. This guy has 15 fights. 14 of them have finished in the first round. And I will say, he has toned it down a little bit. Like, you go back and watch some of his fights prior to the Contender Series and his UFC debut, and he is wild, like wild, and he's still wild to this day. It's just he looks like he turned it down just a notch, which is smart of the guy. But yeah, lots of power. We saw him go out there and starch Frank Camacho, dropped him a couple times, ultimately ended up finishing him. Was really impressed with his debut, but again, it was against Frank Camacho, so how much can you take into that? But yeah, this guy has a ton of power. He has a slick submission game as well. He's dangerous offensively with that jiu-jitsu. Multiple submissions on his record, which I think could potentially come into play here. Torres has a 92% finish rate. Half those finishes by knockout, half those finishes by sub. So, I think he's dangerous really anywhere the fight goes. The guy's just a freaking madman, and it's very fun to watch. Trey Ogden, it's hard to get a read on this guy, to be honest. And I think his UFC career thus far has been weird, with lack of better terms here, just because he comes in there against Jordan Levitt, and he loses a 15-minute decision to Jordan Levitt in a fight where he is outstruck on the feet, and it's not like it's close or anything. Like, Jordan Levitt clearly goes out there and just outlands Trey Ogden across 3 rounds, 69-41. So, yeah, Ogden loses a striking fight to Jordan Levitt, and then he goes out there against Daniel Zellhuber, who's a very good prospect. Zellhuber, yes, he's a young guy, but very good striker. And a lot of people, including me, thought, hey, if Jordan Levitt's outstriking you, what the heck is Daniel Zellhuber going to do? And then Zellhuber shows up that night and pulls a William Knight. Doesn't even want to be in there, it looks like. So I think people might be looking into that debut just a little bit too much, because you go watch that fight, like, Zellhuber literally looked like he didn't want to be there. He didn't throw anything in the matchup. So I don't know. It's still hard to kind of get a read on Trey Ogden, but yeah, on the feet, it's going to be Manuel Torres for me, just because he's going to throw a lot more. And then on top of that, he's going to be a lot more dangerous. Like, for Ogden to have success in this matchup, he's not going to stay at range and counter strike Manuel Torres for 3 rounds. I mean, that's not going to happen. This is not Daniel Zellhuber, and Torres is going to fight a lot different than Daniel Zellhuber did in that matchup that night. For Ogden to have success here, 1, he's going to have to get this fight extended, and then 2, he's probably going to have to mix in some takedowns here, which, I don't know. The way I see this fight playing out is I think they are going to stand and bang here, which is going to favor Torres, and then I just think at some point Torres is either going to knock out Trey Ogden, or I think he's going to hurt him, force Ogden to shoot him for a takedown, and I think he's getting his neck snatched up. I like Torres here inside the distance, and by submission more specifically. Could be a knockout, but I like the submission just because we've seen Ogden submitted a lot of times. I mean, Ogden's been submitted 3 times in his career. 2 of those times were against Thomas Gifford, and these fights were a couple years ago, sure, but it was the same thing each time. Ogden shot in for a takedown, and Thomas Gifford snatched up his neck. He did it twice, and I kind of see the same thing happening here. Torres hurts him on the feet, Ogden shoots in, and he gets that neck snatched up. So I like Torres here by submission. I'm not sold on Ogden's performance against Zellhuber. I think, yes, he won that fight as a big dog, but I think it was more so of Zellhuber literally not winning to fight that night is what it looked like. So I'm going Torres here to win. I'm going to take Torres to win by first round submission. Should be a very fun fight, just like every Manuel Torres fight is. All right, moving on. We got CJ Vergara going against Daniel Da Silva. My guy, Daniel Da Silva, is back. I don't know how he's back, but hey, he's back. He's getting another opportunity here after starting 0-3 in the UFC. We'll start with Vergara, 31 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach, 10-4, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Daniel Da Silva, 26 years old, 5'6", with a 70-inch reach, 11-4, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Vergara, pretty big favorite here, sitting around -240. Daniel Da Silva sitting around +205. So Daniel Da Silva, I guess I had higher hopes for him, to be honest, when he came into the UFC. Like, you take a look at his fights outside the UFC, and he shows flashes of really good things. Like, he's a really good striker. He believes a black belt in BJJ, a very dangerous guy, really nice spinning attacks on the feet. He can hurt guys, he can submit guys. His wrestling's not terrible. So yeah, he showed some good flashes outside the UFC. And then I think I got a good read on Daniel Da Silva now that we saw him in 3 fights. And like I said, I'm kind of surprised he's getting another shot here, but yeah, I guess he's getting another shot here after not only going 0-3, but getting finished in those 3 losses at flyweight, which is never a good sign. Daniel Da Silva has about 2.5 minutes, if that, of cardio, and then he just falls off a cliff. Like, it's bad. I don't think he has the best durability. I don't think he has the best cardio. I don't think he has the best toughness, and I don't think he has the best heart. He is a good hammer, but probably the worst nail in the UFC. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Malcolm Gordon. Malcolm Gordon battles any adversity whatsoever, he kind of folds. Same thing with Daniel Da Silva. When he battles any adversity whatsoever, he looks for the way out. He's been submitted multiple times. He's been knocked out a lot, So I just think this is a very tough matchup for Daniel da Silva, because is Daniel da Silva going to go in there and knock out CJ Vergara in the first minute? I don't think so, but that's how he's going to have to win, because what Vergara is going to do in this matchup, and what he does is he's a tough guy, first and foremost, which he's a lot tougher than Daniel da Silva, but he's going to pressure Daniel da Silva, and that is a recipe for disaster for da Silva. If Vergara is going to get in his face, da Silva is not going to like that, and once he's not able to get Vergara out of there, I think he's going to look for a way out. So, yeah, I think it's a great matchup for Vergara. Should Vergara be a minus 240 favorite against anybody in the division? Maybe not, but maybe against da Silva here that makes a little bit of sense. Just because da Silva, I don't think he's UFC caliber, and I think he has about 2 minutes of gas, if that. So I like Vergara here. I like Vergara by finish, first round finish even. I just think it's going to be an absolute car crash, and as soon as Daniel da Silva tastes, just an ounce of adversity, I think he's going to fold here like he has shown to do. That's all he's shown me, so that's what I'm going to stick with here. And I don't see him getting out a tough guy in Vergara. So CJ Vergara for me, CJ Vergara, first round knockout. All right, moving on, we have Trevin Giles, officer. Trevin Giles going against Preston Parsons. We got Trevin Giles, 30 years old, 6 foot, with a 74-inch reach, 15-4, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Preston Parsons, 27 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach, 10-3 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Yeah, we have a lot of pick'ems on this card. I think we have like 3 or 4 pick'ems on this card. This is another one of them. Trevin Giles around minus 115, Preston Parsons around minus 105. And yeah, it's a tough fight to call. And to be honest, every single Trevin Giles fight is a tough one to call, because I think this guy is very skilled. He has good size for the division, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach, has that really good jab, the really good striking, really good power. I believe he's a black belt in BJJ at this point. Really good grappling, really good wrestling offensively and defensively. Just really seems like the full package, to be honest, but he does lack a couple things. The first thing he lacks is fight IQ, and it's bad. I remember the fight with Gerald Meerschaert. He is winning the majority of that fight, and he was on his way to winning that fight. And then in the third round, instead of disengaging with Gerald Meerschaert, he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna grapple with Gerald Meerschaert." And guess what happens? He gets submitted. He was on his way to beating Cummings, and then the third round comes around. He's on his way to winning, and then he gets clipped, and then he gets subbed. There's just, I don't know. There's some fight IQ issues here with Trevin Giles, I think. If he can put it all together, though, I think he could be a really good fighter. I'm just not sure he can. The other things I don't like is the durability. I really question the durability of Trevin Giles. 4 losses, all 4 of them inside the distance, 2 by knockout, 2 by sub. Another thing I don't like is going to be the volume. He has really good striking, but he doesn't throw anything. And he has really good wrestling, but he doesn't wrestle. So I'm just like, yes, he has all these skills on paper, but he doesn't use any of them, and he makes a ton of mistakes in fights. So it's always hard to trust Trevin Giles for and against, because if Trevin Giles shows up and we get the best version of Trevin Giles, yeah, you should be able to go out there and beat Parsons, right? Stuff those takedowns. You should be the better striker and knock out Parsons, but I don't know. There seems to always be a big mistake over the course of 3 rounds. Trevin Giles is going to make at least one mistake, and that one mistake could lose to him getting finished here. Parsons, his nickname is Pressure, and I think that's very fitting because he's going to pressure you the entire time. He's going to have the cardio to pressure you the entire time. He's going to have the better cardio in this matchup as well. Parsons' grappling is very good. He has a 90% finish rate. All of those coming by submission. Preston Parsons, 0 knockout wins. Very good grappler. And we've seen Trevin Giles get submitted before, multiple times in the UFC. We've seen Trevin Giles gas out multiple times in the UFC. And Preston Parsons is going to be there for all 3 rounds. Sure, Giles could potentially knock him out early, but Giles is going to have to let his hands go for that to happen, right? So yeah, I like Parsons to kind of break Giles here. Giles is huge for the weight class at 170. I think he cuts a lot of weight to get down here, and I think that's only going to hurt his gas tank even more. I like Parsons to make this a war, honestly. Mix in takedowns, force Giles to go out there and wrestle, force Giles to go out there and do things, and I think that's going to tire Giles out. I think Parsons eventually gets on top, gets into a dominant position, and gets a submission win in the 2nd or 3rd round. So I like Parsons here. I like Parsons to win by 3rd round knockout, but like I said earlier, Trevin Giles fights are very, very hard to call. Very hard to call. But give me Parsons I'll say sub 2. All right, moving on. We got Steven Peterson going against Lucas Alexander. We got Peterson, 32 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach, 19-10, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Lucas Alexander, 27 years old, 5'11", with a 73-inch reach, 7-3 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So yeah, another tough fight to call here. I'm not the biggest fan of Steven Peterson, but with that said, I'm not the biggest fan of Lucas Alexander here. Alexander seems to be a pretty good striker. I was able to go back and watch the majority of his fights. Really like the striking. I guess the only area he's really struggled in is the submission defense. I've seen him taken down and submitted multiple times. Made his debut against Joe Anderson Brito and was submitted in the first round there. Is Peterson going to implement that game plan of getting the fight down to the mat? Honestly, I think he may here. Like Steven Peterson, he doesn't go out there and wrestle a ton, and he doesn't have the best wrestling, but he was able to get a takedown against Chase Hooper, was able to get a couple takedowns against Caceres, was able to get a couple takedowns against Luis Pena. So he's been able to get takedowns in pretty much every single fight outside of the Bravo fight and a fight where he got an early knockout, and then outside of the Julian Erosa fight, which is an all-out war on the feet. But other than that, he will mix in takedowns. He will go for submissions. He's went for, I think, like 6 submissions in his career. So I kind of think that Peterson by sub could be a sneaky way to attack this fight. But if he does not get this fight down to the mat and it is on the feet, I think it's going to be pretty close. And I might even favor the striking of Alexander on the feet, but Peterson's a dog. He's going to throw a lot of volume. He's also going to eat a lot of shots as well, and he's super, super tough. I like the toughness of Peterson. I like the cardio of Peterson, and I like the experience of Peterson. So I think there's a lot of reasons to like Peterson in this matchup, but I don't think he's going to go out there and smoke this guy unless he does get the fight down to the mat. So I just think Peterson has more ways to win here. I'm going to say Peterson by submission. I think that could be a sneaky way to look at it, just because Peterson has not submitted anybody in the UFC. Not sure when Peterson's last submission was. It was outside the UFC, but hey, he has finished 42% of his wins by sub, so he does have a good amount of submissions outside the UFC. I believe he's either a brown belt or a black belt as well. So, yeah, I'm going to say Peterson by sub here, but if this does go the distance, it's probably going to be very close, like split decision type fight, but I'm going to say Peterson does go out there, he does grapple, and he does eventually get a sub. I'm going to say 3rd round submission here for Steven Peterson. Should be a fun fight. All right, next we have Tucker Lutz going against Daniel Pineda. We got Tucker Lutz. I want to say he's the biggest favorite on the card. And I think he is. Yeah, Tucker Lutz, the biggest favorite on the card here. Going against Daniel Pineda. Tucker Lutz, 28 years old, 5'8", with a 72-inch reach, 12-2, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Daniel Pineda, 37 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach, 27-14, and 1-1, and 3 no contests in his last 5 fights. So, very interesting matchup stylistically, just because Daniel Pineda, this guy has over 40 fights, well over 40 fights. A lot of no contests mixed in there, and that's because he did pop for PEDs. So we got a lot of his recent wins turned into no contest, and a lot of those wins, I think all of them, were in the very first round, maybe 1 second round. But yeah, this is a guy that is a finisher. It's not often that you see somebody with over 40 fights and then a 100% finish rate, especially at these lower weight classes at featherweight. But yeah, Pineda has a 100% finish rate. He's a black belt in BJJ, has a lot of power, heavy leg kicks. But the thing with Pineda at this point is, I don't know, I think he's taken a lot of damage throughout his career. He's now 37 years old, so he's getting up there in age, especially for these lower weight classes. And he's obviously not on that juice anymore, and you can tell it. You can tell that after the first round, he just has nothing left whatsoever. Nothing left. And Tucker Lutz is a grinder. He's going to take you down. I don't think Tucker Lutz is the most dangerous guy in the world, but he's gonna take you down. He's going to make you work. He's going to put a pace up on you, and I think that's kind of what happens here. Lutz is going to have to survive the first couple minutes, and that's the case for a lot of these fights this week. Daniel da Silva, survive the first couple minutes, you'll be okay. Same thing here. Survive those first couple minutes, and Daniel Pineda is going to look for the door. I mean, this guy has 14 losses. I want to say 9 of them are inside the distance. Pineda has been finished a ton in his career. Yeah, 6 submission losses for Pineda, 3 knockout losses, and I think Pineda gets finished here again. I don't think Tucker Lutz is the best finisher. It's just I think Pineda is going to gas out to the point where he's going to just gas out. I think Lutz is going to get on top and just pound away. And I don't know, I think the ref's going to step in, or maybe Lutz can get a sub or something late in the fight. But I do think that Pineda is going to gas out. He's shown to gas out like early in fights. Like I'm talking late first round gassing out, early second round. So I just don't think he can make it a full 15 at this point of his career. And he's never won a 15-minute fight to begin with. So it's Pineda round 1 or bust. And it's just hard to pick, him to do that. So I'm going to say Tucker Lutz, biggest favorite on the card, which is kind of terrifying. I don't think Lutz is the best fighter, but it's more so a big fade on Daniel Pineda here. And I think that's what people are doing, why Lutz is such a big favorite here. I'm going to say Lutz wins this fight. I'll say like third round TKO, just due to Pineda having nothing left in the tank. So, but yeah, should be an interesting fight for sure. All right, moving on to, I believe this is the main card. We have Chidi and Njokuani going against Albert Duraev. Should be a very, very fun fight here. We have Chidi and Njokuani, 34 years old, 6'3" with an 80-inch reach, 22-8 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Albert Duraev, 34 years old, 5'11", 75-inch reach, 15-4, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Chidi, slight favorite, -150. Duraev, +130 dog. Yeah, good matchup stylistically here, a striker versus grappler matchup. Chidi and Njokuani, I think, has made a ton of improvements throughout his career. Like, you go back and watch fights a couple years ago with Chidi, and he's getting taken down, he's gassing out, looks like he's quitting in a lot of these fights. Like, he's not showing a ton of heart, he's getting finished in a lot of these matchups. Like, Chidi and Njokuani's been finished 7 times. 4 by KO, 3 by submission. And it looked like he kind of like turned a corner in his career. He looked like he made a ton of improvements late in his career here. But in the Gregor Rodriguez fight, he was not able to get Rodriguez out of there early. Rodriguez took him down in the second. And it kind of reminded me of what I saw in the past with Chidi just having nothing left, kind of looking for a way out. So that scares me a little bit. But in this matchup, on the feet, Chidi's going to have the advantage here. Chidi's much bigger, 5-inch reach advantage, 4-inch height advantage, tons of power. Duraev, I think he's more so on the chinny side. 4 losses for Duraev, all 4 of those coming by knockout. Buckley was not able to knock him out per se, but it was a doctor stoppage. Buckley did knock him down twice in the second round. And Duraev's a guy that his wrestling's okay. Like, I don't even think it's that good. Like, his wrestling's not that great. His grappling's not amazing and has not really translated to the UFC level. Like, he was able to get down Kopylov in the second round, and when he does get on top, he's very good. I just don't think he has the best wrestling in the world, and I don't really see him taking down Chidi in the first round. And if he doesn't take down Chidi in the first round, I think he gets knocked out here. So if Duraev is able to extend this fight, if Duraev is able to get on top in that second or third round, I think he could make Chidi quit here. I think he could finish Chidi on the mat. But I just really struggle to see Duraev having any early success, and I think Chidi's going to be very, very dangerous in that first round. Like, you don't see anybody go out there and finish Marc-Andre Barriault, let alone in 16 seconds. Chidi ran through a guy as tough as nails than Marc-Andre Barriault. I think he finishes Duraev here in the very first round. But if this does get extended and Duraev is able to get on top, it's going to get very interesting very fast. I just don't think it reaches that point personally. Give me Chidi. Chidi first round knockout. Should be an absolute banger for as long as this one lasts. Cannot wait for it. A couple more fights here, guys. We have Manel Kape going against Alex Perez. Manel Kape, 29 years old, 5'5", with a 68-inch reach, 18-6, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Alex Perez, 31 years old, 5'6", with a 65.5-inch reach, 24-7, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Alex Perez has not looked good as of late. Went in there against Alexander Pantoja, finished in the first couple minutes. Went in there against Davison Figueiredo for the championship, was finished in a couple minutes. And he has like 3 minutes of cage time in like the last 3 years. He has not seen a second round in like the last couple years. So I don't know. I just kind of question where Perez's head is at. I was taking a look at his Instagram. Looks like he has a lot going on outside the UFC. He's a father now. He's spending a lot of time with his son. And I don't know. I'm not sure, where his head's at this point after getting finished in back-to-back losses. Because, prior to that, he was kind of on the top of the world there, looking really good. Was able to finish Jordan Espinoza in the first round, able to finish Jussier Formiga with those leg kicks in the first round. But just says has looked bad as of late, but he's looking bad against Alexander Pantoja and Davison Figueiredo. So I don't know. It's just kind of hard to know where Perez is at this moment. If Perez is like 100% motivated, and then we do get the Perez of like 2019, 2020, sure, I guess he could win this fight. He's a really good wrestler, has those really heavy leg kicks, powerful, he's solid grappling offensively. Defensively, the grappling is not good. I mean, he has 7 losses. I think he's been submitted like 5 or 6 times, so that's not good. But I think it's a kind of a tough matchup for him, to be honest. Like Manel Kape, very good takedown defense, very fast on the feet. I think Kape's definitely going to have the striking advantage. Kape's the more durable fighter as well. And Kape's a guy that prior to the UFC, he kind of struggled with getting taken down, kind of struggled with getting submitted. He's been submitted a couple times in his own right, but he's now a black belt in BJJ. I like to see that. So it shows that he's working on that grappling. He's working on that weakness. And it took him a couple fights to get going in the UFC. Remember the fight against Pantoja Kape had? Went in there and just didn't really do much. Same thing with Nicolau. Went in there and just didn't really do much. Didn't really let his hands go. When he did, he looked good. He looked really good. And then those next couple fights, he is letting those hands go. He is, throwing a lot of volume. And when Kape lands, he's very powerful. He's very dangerous. He's finished, I think, all but 2 of his wins. Just a very dangerous guy wherever the fight goes. Was really close to finishing David Dvorak with that Kimura. I don't know how he didn't finish it. He almost ripped David Dvorak's arm off, it looked like. And honestly, that fight probably should have been stopped because, I don't know, it looked like he just broke his arm, but no. But yeah, that was good to see. So it's showing that Kape does have some grappling ability here. Kape obviously has that power as well. And I think Kape can probably knock out Perez here. Or I even think he could probably submit Alex Perez. Like if Perez is going for takedowns here, Kape can find something off his back. Like Kape has a very active guard he showed in that Dvorak fight. I kind of like Kape by sub here, just due to the fact that Perez, he has been knocked out, I think, once, but when Perez typically does lose, it is by submission. So maybe a hot take, but I'm going to say Kape by sub in this one. But obviously, I could also obviously see a knockout, but I'm going to say Kape by sub. I'm going to say Kape by first round sub. I'm just not sure if Perez wants to be here, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm looking into it a little bit too much, but I don't know. It just doesn't look like Perez wants to be here anymore, which is weird to say, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. But we'll see. Maybe he goes out here and proves me wrong, but I'm going to say Kape kind of runs through him here and does it in the very first round. All right, moving on. We have Maycee Barber going against Andrea Lee. We got Maycee Barber, 24 years old, 5'5", with a 65-inch reach, 11-2, 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Andrea Lee, 34 years old, 5'6", with a 69.5-inch reach, 13-6 and 2-3 in her last 5 fights. Barber, big favorite. She's like the second biggest favorite on the card. Lee plus 220. I'm going to pick Lee here. I just think this fight's going to play out a lot closer than those odds indicate. Like, initially I was like, yeah, Barber should go out there and win this fight. She's going to be more physically strong. She's going to go out there and get takedowns. But after looking into it, I do think this fight could be like a split decision type fight. Like, Andrea Lee, she's getting up there in age. She's 34 years old, but she's going to be the better striker. Like, I'm not in love with Maycee Barber's striking. I think it's a serious work in progress still. Like, it's getting better, but I just went back and watched that Grasso fight, which it's Alexa Grasso, don't get me wrong, but Maycee Barber was like 10 to 15 feet away from Grasso, just like punching air. I mean, it was pretty bad to watch. I think her striking still needs some work. Andrea Lee, I like the volume that she brings. I like her striking quite a bit. The problem I don't like with Lee, and this is why she's probably such a big dog here, is her takedown defense. She can be taken down, but she's a good grappler. She's very active off her back. I would like to see her work her way up, and she does do that pretty decently occasionally, but she can't be content to lay on her back, and that would be a big no-no here. But she can also go for takedowns in her own right, and we have seen Maycee Barber taken down herself. But Barber's going to be the more physically strong fighter here, and I think that's why she's favored, but my goodness, I don't know if she should be favored this much. I see it being a pretty close fight where Andrea Lee, in my opinion, is going to be the better striker, going to have more volume on the feet, going to land more, and then Maycee Barber is going to be getting those takedowns. But if Andrea Lee can stuff a couple, if Andrea Lee can get taken down and work her way back up, keep this at range for a lot of the fight, I think she can pull off this upset. This is a fight that not too excited about, but in terms of a pick, I'll go Lee here, and Lee by like a split decision, maybe even like a robbery decision. Like, this fight's going to decision. The judges are horrible. We saw that in London last week, right? The judges in Texas have always been bad. So yeah, give me a robbery decision win for Andrea Lee. Everybody gets mad on Twitter, but I'll take Lee for the decision win. But I think this fight's going to play out close regardless. I'd be shocked if Maycee Barber went out there and 30-27, 30-26 to Andrea Lee. I think it's going to be 29-28, split decision either way. So give me the dog here in Andrea Lee, but a fight that I'm not all that looking forward to. I am looking forward to this one, though. Nate Landwehr going against Austin Lingo. We got Landwehr, 34 years old, 5'9", with a 70.5-inch reach, 16-4, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Austin Lingo, 28 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach, 9-1, and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So yeah, this is going to be a banger. Both these guys want to do one thing, and that is get in each other's face and pressure. They're both pressure fighters. They're both looking to go out there and get into a war. This is fight of the night. I mean, this has fight of the night written all over it. A lot of money coming in on Austin Lingo. A lot of money is coming in on Austin Lingo, and I definitely get why. Landwehr opened up minus 300. He's currently minus 220. Lingo opened up plus 250, currently plus 185. So money's pouring into Lingo. And that's because, Landwehr, when he's winning these fights, he's winning them as big dogs. He was plus 140. He was plus 285 against David Onama. He was plus 300 against Ludovic Klein. He was even a dog against Darren Elkins. So when he's winning fights in the UFC, he has been a dog, and he's a big favorite here. And I have some serious question marks about the striking defense of Nate Landwehr. He's willing to eat one to give one. And Austin Lingo has a lot of power. So I see where people are coming from, but I think Nate Landwehr has a couple paths to victory here. The path I'd like to see him take is the takedown route. This is kind of the route I expected Ricardo Ramos to take before Ricardo Ramos showed up a couple weeks ago, forgetting which weight class he was in. Like, Lingo was supposed to fight Ramos at featherweight, and then Ramos weighs in as a lightweight. But the reason I liked Ramos so much in that matchup, and Ramos is a much better grappler than Landwehr, don't get me wrong, but Nate can go out and get takedowns here. I've seen Lingo taken down easily on the regional scene. I've seen him taken down against Yusuf Zalal easily. I've seen him put into bad spots against Yusuf Zalal. And it's not really Nate Landwehr's game, but he does go for takedowns, and he has a very sneaky submission game. He really does. He has not been able to get. He got the one submission against Ludovic Klein, but he went for a couple submissions against David Onama, those anaconda chokes. He has a really sneaky submission game, and I think that's really live here. I think these guys are going to stand and bang for the most part, but I think Landwehr can mix in the takedowns here, and I'm going to pick him to win by submission, like a late submission. But yeah, early on, it's going to get pretty greasy. Landwehr's going to get hit in the face a lot, and Austin Lingo has a lot of power, but I think as the fight goes on, it obviously favors Landwehr. Landwehr does not slow down, and he breaks guys, and I kind of see him breaking Lingo here. I'll say Nate Landwehr, 3rd round sub, but yeah, this fight's going to be very, very fun, a fight that I cannot wait to watch. Co-main event, Holly Holm going against Yana Santos. We got Holly Holm, 41 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach, 14-6, 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Yana Santos, 33 years old, 5'8", with a 68.5-inch reach, 14-6, and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. I don't know. Holm is minus 250. Yana Santos plus 210. You won't catch me laying that price tag on Holm. She's 41 years old. She just signed a 6-fight deal, so she's going to be fighting till she's 45. So I'm not sure what's up with that. But yeah, she should win this fight. It's just, man, Holly Holm looked like she declined bad in her last fight against Ketlin Vieira. She was and I still thought she won the fight. Don't get me wrong, but she looked pretty bad in that matchup. And then that was almost a year ago, so she's only gotten older at this point. So I don't like that at all. And then on the Yana Santos side, she just got married to Thiago Santos, hence the name change. She just had a baby not too long ago. It was less than a year ago she had that baby. And I don't like that as well on the Santos side. I don't really like Santos to begin with. I never really have been high on her. So yeah, this should be Holly Holm, but with there being red flags on both sides here, I really want nothing to do with it. And I'm actually kind of appalled that this is the co-main event. The co-main event probably should be Nate Landwehr, Austin Lingo, to be honest. I don't know. I'm not looking forward to this fight, to be honest. But yeah, Holmes going to go out there and hold Santos against the cage for 3 rounds. Decision win. There you go. But I would not be betting on this fight just because Holmes is very old for the weight class. Bantamweight, 41 years old. A little bit of a layoff. I don't like that. And then on the Santos side, you can't bet her as well just because there's red flags on her side too. I mean, this is just a big pass for me. And a terrible excuse of a co-main event. But give me home by boring decision. Moving on, main event, we got Cory Sandhagen going against Marlon Vera. I did break this down on my channel a couple days ago. If you guys want a further in-depth breakdown, go check that out. But we got Sandhagen, 30 years old, 5'11", with a 70-inch reach, 15-4, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Vera, 30 years old, 5'8", with a 70.5-inch reach, 22-7. And 1-4-1 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. Cory Sandhagen is the favorite. He opened up minus 165. Currently minus 180. Vera opened up around plus 140, plus 145. Currently plus 155. All right. Yeah, I mean, I see why a lot of people are on Sandhagen this week, and it makes sense. But I don't know, like, people hate Marlon Vera. Like, people always bet against Marlon Vera, and I see their viewpoint, and their viewpoint is Marlon Vera is not a minute winner. He's not going to go out there and win minutes, therefore he's not going to win the fight. And yeah, he's not a minute winner. He's not at all. He went out there against Rob Font, got outlanded by like over 100 strikes, and still clearly won that fight. So yeah, he's not a minute winner, but what he is a moment winner, and a very good moment winner. So yes, Cory Sandhagen, he's going to be honestly the better fighter. Cory Sandhagen is the better overall fighter. A lot more tools on the feet, a lot more volume, more defensively sound, better movement. But Marlon Vera has that dog in him. Marlon Vera can go out there and get outstruck, 50-20 in a round and still win that round just because he lands a big shot and puts you down. And we saw that in the Rob Font fight. Rob Font just outlands him cleanly every single round, and then Marlon Vera lands a big shot, knocks him down, almost finishes him multiple times, sways the judges. So I think it's going to play out a little bit like that, where Cory Sandhagen, he's doing the better work, he's winning the minutes, he's outlanding Marlon Vera, and then Marlon Vera lands a big shot and either hurts Sandhagen very bad or potentially knocks him out. So it's a tough fight. Like, I don't really, I get it, but at the same time, I don't like this price tag on Sandhagen, minus 180. Like, even if Sandhagen wins, he's going to get hurt a couple times throughout this fight. If this fight does go to decision, yes, it should be Sandhagen that gets the nod if it goes to decision, but you never know with the judges. First of all, the judges suck. Second of all, Vera is going to be landing big shots, so the more damaging shots, right? So I'm gonna take Vera here for the dog as a dog and say that either he does find the chin of Cory Sandhagen at some point in this fight, he has 25 minutes to do it, or I'm gonna say he lands the harder, better shots across 25 minutes, gets outlanded but still lands those big shots. I think this fight's a close fight. I really do. But I'm gonna take Vera here. I'm gonna take Vera to win. I'll say officially like a 4th round knockout. I'm going to say he does find that knockout win, but if it does go to decision, don't be surprised if it's a little bit closer than you expect just because Marlon Vera is going to have his big moments, land those big shots. So I'll say Vera for a 4th round knockout win. All right, guys, we got through it. Sorry, guys, a little bit sick, but it came out a little bit late, but yeah, had a lot going on this week. Yeah, looking forward to ending this 8-week stretch, hopefully with another winning night. Make it 5 in a row. That'd be nice. Not going to be a big betting card. Not a ton of spots I like, to be honest, outside of some violent spots. But yeah, tune into the live stream Fridays, 4:00 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be getting out my betting breakdown video on Friday as well. Then we got a week off next week, which is going to be nice. Need some time to get ahead a little bit. Maybe beat some live movement as well on the UFC 287 card coming up next month. So that's going to be nice. But yeah, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Best of luck for UFC San Antonio. Should be a fun card. Not the best betting card, but from a fan perspective, really looking forward to it. Best of luck, guys. We'll talk to you soon, and see you.